Hi, I'm Abraham Maslanides, and today I'll walk you through the West Seattle Link Extension, or WSLE, and evaluate how its Joint National Environmental Policy Act and State Environmental Policy Act reviews align with three goals: climate-forward mobility, social equity, and protection of Seattle's working waterfront. I'll hit the project's purpose, major impacts, remaining gaps, and why those gaps matter before federal funding is locked in. Let's frame the scale of need. Puget Sound will grow by roughly 1.8 million people by 2050. That's adding another Portland metro area on top of what we already have. Vision 2050, the region's growth strategy, steers 65% of that influx into regional growth centers like West Seattle Junction and SODO, explicitly tied to high-capacity transit. Meanwhile, the West Seattle Bridge and Spokane Street corridor is at capacity today, and one crash traps dozens of buses in gridlock. Without a new grade-separated crossing, mobility and freight reliability both degrade. Three statutes govern environmental review here. NEPA at the federal level designates the Federal Transit Administration as lead agency because the expected $3 billion in federal grants. SEPA lets Sound Transit act as state lead. That's why the project has a combined final EIS instead of two separate documents. Then the Growth Management Act requires Seattle to keep zoning and shoreline permits consistent with its comprehensive plan. Understanding this hierarchy explains why tribal treaty rights, hazardous materials cleanup, and shoreline armoring all show up in one report. The project's official purpose is to provide frequent, reliable, accessible, rapid transit between West Seattle and downtown, bypassing the bottlenecked bridge. Planners screened 25 build alternatives plus a no-build baseline. After 6 years of open houses and technical refinement, the board chose a hybrid alignment: at grade through SODO, an elevated crossing off the Duwamish River to protect navigation, and a medium-depth bored tunnel under Alaska Junction to reduce property takes and visual impact. I evaluated the project through three defining value systems: mobile equity. West Seattle's Delridge corridor has the city's highest zero-car rate. Does the line actually shorten commutes for those riders? Climate resilience. Can the structure absorb 4 feet of sea level rise, and will it cut greenhouse gas emissions region-wide? Industrial lands retention. Seattle's maritime and manufacturing hub along the Duwamish supports 85,000 jobs. Rail can't wall off those truck routes. Numbers give us a concise report card. By 2042, the preferred alternative attracts about 27,000 new weekday boardings, shaving 5 to 9 minutes off trips to downtown. Construction releases 32 kilotons of CO2, mostly from concrete and steel, but life cycle analysis shows a carbon break even in year 16 as drivers switch from cars to rail. Environmentally, the tunnel portal spares Longfellow Creek wetlands, limiting direct impact to under 0.4 acre, and a redesigned Andover Street flyover moves Nucor steel truck traffic away from pedestrian crossings, which is important for freight safety. Still, three gaps jump out. First, the tunnel variant costs roughly $1.9 billion more than a fully elevated option, but yields only a 3% ridership bump, a poor cost-effectiveness ratio. Second, the record of decision lists no numeric target for maintaining freight throughput during construction. Monitor and adjust is not an enforceable metric. Third, Title VI civil rights analysis tallies property acquisitions but ignores indirect displacement risk, like rent hikes near stations, despite community comments flagging that exact concern. Well, what happens if we do nothing? By 2035, traffic models show the West Seattle Bridge interchange hitting level of service F, which means continuous queues and greater than 80-second delays per vehicle at stoplights, highway speeds of less than 30 miles an hour, and shockwave stop and go patterns. Rapid Ride C buses would run at 125% of seated capacity. The preferred alternative solves those, yet the cheaper elevated West Seattle Junction 2 option cuts almost the same vehicle miles traveled and hits 96% of the ridership. So the board's tunnel choice was largely a policy call, visual and quality and property impacts weighed over cost efficiency. On mitigation, the package looks pretty strong. Night construction curfews, portable sound walls, and a financial agreement to relocate Lafarge cement silos away from station excavation. But some items are still to be determined. The new bridge's scour monitoring plan, critical for the salmon habitat, has no design yet. Likewise, Sound Transit commits to equity monitoring, but hasn't defined metrics or funding. Requiring annual audits of rate speeds and housing displacement before the 2026 Federal Transit Administration's full funding grant agreement would turn those promises into accountability. Bottom line, the West Seattle Link Extension Environmental Review meets NEPA and SEPA's procedural duties and makes genuine progress on climate and equity. But missing adaptation triggers, for example, at what river stage height do we raise the track bed? Plus, vague freight and displacement commitments leave the projects vulnerable to lawsuits in the 60-day window after FDA signs the grant, potentially slipping the 2032 opening date and risking cost escalation. Closing those gaps now protects schedule, budget, and community trust. The documents here on screen, Vision 2050, the Regional Transportation Plan, the full final EIS set are the sources behind every figure and statistic I've mentioned. A PDF version of these slides includes live hyperlinks if you'd like to dive into deeper details. Thank you for your attention.